Over 3 billion hours are used to play violent video games in the United States, containing mostly children leading into their teens. In 1958, a psychiatrist named William Higginbottom created the first ever video game, which created a chain reaction. From Harvard Mental Health Letter explains that too much time is spent on video games. It's damaging to children's brain development. I'm a parent, so I understand the want and need for your child to be healthy. So no, I do not want to promote something that could damage his brain. Although there are many strong examples why violent video games are damaging to young minds today, I'm going to focus on two main points: effects, behavior at school, and causes harmful effects on the brain. Along the way, I'm going to share with you some alternative healthy ways your child can spend their time besides playing video games. First, I'm going to go over how playing violent video games affects behavioral problems at school. Education is a crucial part of our lives, and when violence becomes involved, it messes with the whole process. There are 4 main reasons young minds need education. 1, you cannot get a job without an education. Cannot move on to college without GED or high school diploma. Gives children social interaction. Where it limits your job opportunity, more likely to lend on government for assistance. Now I'll explain how violent video games affects a child's education. Video games have negative, meaningful relations with academic success. According to E.C. Hastings, young children's video/computer game use relations with school performance and behavior. A child forms the shaping of his or her character through peer interaction and social interaction with peers as well as family members. Also in E.C. Hastings' article, he mentions that 1 out of 10 teenagers deal with a type of social interaction anxiety. So it makes sense that when all the child interacts with is violence, it would in return make them socially awkward. Now I'll give you some tips on ways your child can spend their time instead of violent video games. 1 is playing an after-school activity like soccer, volleyball, or basketball. Getting involved in a Big Brother program. Whether older or younger, getting involved in this type of program is always a good way to volunteer spare time. Now that we've learned about the harmful effects violent video games have on a child's education, let's move on to how violent video games are harmful to a child's brain. The brain is the powerhouse of a person, controls speech, memory, and processes gross and motor function. There are many reasons humans need an effective working brain, but now I'll give 3 main reasons why we do. 1, it serves as a center organ of the nervous system. 2, it controls all the other organs of the body. 3, allows groups of muscles to act as a stimuli and creates responses in other parts of the body. Again, these are just 3 main functions of the brain, of what the brain provides for the body. There are 4 main reasons why violent video games are harmful to a child's brain. 1 is, according to Victoria Dunkley's article, Gray matter. Too much screen time damages the brain. Children at this young age are vulnerable and damage occurs when violence is constant in the brain's frontal lobe, which undergoes massive violence and a constance in the brain's frontal lobe, which undergoes massive changes from puberty until the mid-20s. That's basically stating that a child is very vulnerable from the ages of 15 to 25. And so when they're exposed to such violence, it is reprimandable. A child's brain cannot fully develop properly with the use of massive amounts of violent video games. Dunkley also provides information on how it affects with educational wise. Frontal lobe development largely determines success in everyday life, from a sense of well-being to academic or career success to relationship skills. So when a loss of empathy, loss of cognitive function, less sense of compassion are the negative effects from violent video games, it only makes sense to cut out the negatives and enter it with positives. Brain development is vital, but especially to vulnerable young minds. This is why we need to limit children's interaction with violent video games. Now I'll give you some more tips on ways your child can spend their time in a healthier environment instead of violent video games. Another tip would be, if your child is interested in singing or musical instruments, they could join band or choir. Since Dunkley explains children in their teens are some of the most involved with violent video games, again, going back to saying that they are between the ages of 15 to 25. Getting an after-school job could not only lessen their chance of having irreparable brain damage, but learning responsibility as well. Get involved with your church program if you are religious, buffing up your resume, but volunteering at places like nursing homes, hospitals, or animal shelters. So today we've learned about how violent video games have a negative effect on children's education and harmful effects on a child's brain development. Research from scientists have proven that violent video games are causing more harm than the fun that they had hoped to endure. Researchers Victoria Duckley and E.C. Hastings, with their articles, have given reason beyond doubt that violent video games are more than just games. They are games that are causing damage to adolescents without seeing the effects on the outside. Children, Hastings explains, are the future of this country. Future doctors, teachers, future presidents. It is our duty as the United States of America to create a hostile, free environment for in which our children to grow up in. We as parents want the best for our children. We try to watch their every move. We try to protect our children from everything in every way possible. Do not let violent video games corrupt the minds of our children right before our eyes.